Hello. Ooh.
What?
So it
What?
looks like uh all of you, happy Sunday, first of all. Like happy Sunday, everyone. Thank you for being here late night. I had to work today, so we're doing this a little bit after work for me. First of all, I want to say thank you to Mars who held down the fort, who held it down, who did a phenomenal job. I think I even like messaged you the day or the day after, and I was like, "Yo, you don't even need me. Like you murdered it."
Listen, last week. So if you weren't here last week Jen had to work. I had to do a solo show, and it was probably the most terrifying thing I've ever done. Like, listen, I had the shakes and the quakes, and I'm like, I cannot form coherent sentences. I don't know what it is, Jen. You're just like my emotional support human. Which is funny because I consider my partner the same thing. So I guess you're both emotional support humans,
Yeah.
and both of you were working. So I was kind of left hanging. But yeah, I did 2 hours by myself. And listen, do you know what it's like to talk for 2 hours straight? Like my
Yeah.
mouth was so dry the rest of the day. It was ridiculous, but it was fun. It was great.
Yeah, I've done it like once or twice. Like if you've ever done like going live on Instagram, it's kind of like that. Like I'm waiting for someone else to talk back to me, or like I just by default will put headphones on waiting for, and I'm like, wait, who the hell am I talking to? I'm talking to myself. I'm talking into the void. Granted, like I'm talking to everyone who's like, here, thank you, but I'm like waiting for someone to talk back, which I'm so glad that you're here to talk back with me.
I'm
I
very
missed you.
excited. I
I've
missed
missed it.
you.
Some work stuff has made it so that I haven't been able to do like a consistent schedule, and I've missed a couple things, so I'm sad, but I'm happy to be here. So, first of all, per usual, I want to say hello to everyone in the chat. So, hello to Super Stick Boy. Hello to Carrie, officially unofficial geek. Thank you for being here. Hello to our friend Travis. Thank you for being here, friend. Niall. Hello, everyone. Hello, Niall. Hello, Sonic. I can hear you in the background.
Sonic is here. Sonic is very noisy today. He slept all day, I think, purposely knowing we didn't have a show, so that way he could be up for tonight.
Oh, I love it. Um, Luna is sleeping like right across from me. He's got a cute little pile of blankets on the floor that's his bed, so he's sleeping. Hello to Kaiser Jose. Thank you for being here. Hello to our friend Scott Hazelwood, student of comics. I think I saw you say that you are making dinner. So
I need to know what you're making for dinner because I'm
mm,
learning as an adult living in my own place where I have to cook. Listen, I love to cook, okay? But coming up with what I'm going to cook every week is like, I hate it. I hate
yeah.
it. So please inspire me, friends. Send me your favorite recipes to cook because I need more recipes to cook.
As
Back to
someone
comics.
as someone who, like, I have been living on my own for like, probably about 15 years now. I have never learned to cook. I do not cook very well. I make ramen, and so I eat a 10-cent pack of ramen just about every day is what I eat.
Oh
So
no.
you don't have to, you
I'm
know
gonna have
what?
to come cook for you when I come out. Listen, I also cook 10-cent ramen, but I bougie that shit up, okay?
I just put some like seasoning. I literally like just put a shit ton of pepper on it. I don't put like any salt on it, but I put a ton of like seasoning on it. I put a ton of seasoning on everything. But that's all I know how to cook. So just anyone who cooks for me is just a godsend. Um, who else we got here? We have John Stout. Hello. Thank you for being here, friend. Joram Greenwell, thank you for being here. Wow, okay. Miss So, thank you so much for being here. Hello. Let's see here. Our friend Brandon, Comics Kings. Hello, thank you for being
Howdy,
here.
howdy.
Howdy, howdy. Comic Toby 420. I'm here. I'm here for you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, so apparently Scott is making spicy glazed tofu rice bowls. I'll be over later.
I've never had tofu, and I'm too scared at this point to try it.
No, it's so good, especially depending on like how it's cooked. I know you probably hear that about everything, but like it's literally like a tasteless like thing, but you add the seasonings and you put it in stuff, and if there's stuff out here, and I think it's like native to Portland, and it's like fried tofu, soy curls, basically. It's so good. Highly recommend. Hello to Vincent McLean, the comic machine. Thank you for being here, friend. Okay. Miss Rena, thank you for being here. Hello, ladies. Let's see here. Vincent is saying, I make the most dank chimkin nudes soup ever. I love chicken noodle soup. Love it. I think I got everybody. Yeah, tofu is awesome. The chameleon of foods, truly.
You learn something new.
Yeah. Cool. So, there's been a lot of news this last 2 weeks.
Not even. I feel like in just the 1 week alone, there's been so much that has happened. Like, it's been a busy week for comics, which is kind of good because it wasn't a busy week for comics per se. So,
yeah,
we got a lot to talk about. So, buckle down, kids. Let's talk. All right. So, solicitations came out for both DC and for Marvel. I'm not going to go too much into detail. However, it being June, we got the announcement from both Marvel and DC Comics that we were going to be getting Pride anthologies again, much like we saw last year. So we're seeing a separate one from DC Comics and another one from Marvel Comics, both sprouting variant covers across several different titles featuring prominent queer characters. However, there's
a clear winner and a clear loser here.
There's a clear winner and a clear loser in terms of who's winning the biggest gay competition. And surprisingly enough, the title belongs to DC Comics. So
it's the winner, in my opinion.
DC Comics is definitely the winner. So DC Comics, not only are they doing an anthology, but it seems like a lot of these queer characters, I can't speak tonight. A lot of these queer characters that they're featuring in their anthology title are going into either miniseries, full-on series, or one-shots. So we're seeing a lot of representation for characters like Nubia,
Poison Ivy,
Drake, and Poison Ivy, who is finally getting another series for the first time in it's been about 6 years.
I screamed.
It's been about 6 years since we had the Amy Chu and Clayman Poison Ivy run. And listen, it's just very exciting that DC is putting love and care into not only their creators, but their characters. Because, as you know, these things take work, these things take time, and DC editorial feels like they've been making waves, not only in Pride Month, but throughout the entire year.
Yeah, I think that they've definitely leaned into the whole, what is it, go woke, go broke type thing. Like, they're going woke, so I'm going broke.
Yeah.
And I really hope that it pays off. It's a lot of like Poison Ivy. Like, obviously that's the one that I'm most excited about. I would really love to see. I think that they've done that character some justice recently, especially the romance with Harley Quinn and the one shot, The Gardener, that came out was one of my favorite books. So that was absolutely excellent there. So I really think that they're not just doing it in the way that it's like, oh, we're going to release some Pride covers, or we're going to release like an anthology that's like 2 or 3 pages of a story per character. I think that they're really going to do like good nuance with it. So I'm excited.
I think so too, especially when we, jump across and we look at Marvel, where they are also publishing an anthology. They are publishing the same exact variant covers that they did last year, where they literally look the same as they did, but maybe a different artist is on it with that pink background and the character prominent featured on the front. But somebody pointed out, and it's really interesting to think about, is all of the characters featured in the Marvel anthology, none of them have series right now. You have Billy and Wiccan, who are getting, I believe, a mini series, but then they were also featuring characters like Loki, America Chavez. These are all characters that, get a sprinkling once in a while, but nothing ongoing at the moment. So in the off chance that somebody walks into a comic book shop, picks up the Pride cover or picks up the Pride anthology, falls in love with this character, there's no longer an immediate jump to go and read about this
Yeah.
character. Whereas with DC, with them publishing series and miniseries and one shots, somebody could pick that up who's a casual reader, find a new character that they really like, and jump right into another book.
Yep. And I think, Wiccan and Hulkling, they got a series, like a mini series last year or the year before. In 2021, they did get something. And then America, she got one as well, but once again, a mini series. And I think that at this point, the way that both companies, especially Marvel, the way that Marvel will do okay, we're going to go ahead and do Venom, and then we're going to go ahead and like re-release Venom again and do a new #1 with pretty much the same creative team. I'm okay with them doing miniseries. Like if I get a Poison Ivy miniseries or maxi series, that's fine with me at this point, as long as it's anything, right? Any port in a store.
I think one of the big frustrating things though is because I had to pull it up again because I couldn't remember all the characters on the anthology cover, but it feels very like they're just throwing a lineup of Young Avengers, which is great because if you have not read the Young Avengers, nobody on that team is straight. Okay. So it's the perfect thing for you to read if you want some queer content because nobody on that team is straight, whether they want to believe it or not. I'm looking at Kate Bishop directly when I say that. But if you're featuring Young Avengers on your Pride anthology, why can't we get another Young Avengers series? Because it's been way too long since we've had a Young Avengers series.
It has.
Considering a lot of the things that Marvel is putting out lately in terms of Disney Plus content, it feels like we're building up to another Young Avengers.
We definitely are. Like I know I've said it before, and most people I don't think come to this channel, come to this show for spec. Mm-hmm. Like we're not going to speculate. We're not going to be like, you need to buy the #1 of this, or this is going to be the first appearance, or this is going up to this price. But I would it does look like they're building up to Young Avengers. I wouldn't be surprised if we got a show or a movie of some sort featuring all those characters. And I would really, really hope that they would go ahead and do like a mini series or maxi series for that.
Yeah. I'll take it ongoing.
Anything.
I'll take it ongoing. But speaking of Young Avengers, look at this little segue I got going on here. We finally got the first trailer for Ms. Marvel. How are you feeling about that, Jen?
So here's the thing. Before I even saw the trailer, I saw people talking about it on Twitter that they were real mad about her powers. And listen, I saw the trailer. I get that. Here's the thing. Let me backtrack. I apologize, everyone. I'm not thinking or talking linearly. I loved the trailer. I loved the trailer. I teared up watching it because I'm so freaking excited. There's so much there to really love. A lot of people are apparently upset because they don't show her doing the embiggen powers. They don't give her stretchy powers. At least we don't see that in the trailer. Mm-hmm. And we do see her doing more like light energy based powers.
Like cosmic looking powers.
Yes. Which I do think, thinking about like Captain Marvel's powers and how she was influenced by that, I do think that they're going to have to change it up a little bit. They're not going to, the show is not going to be a straight adaptation of the comics. So there's going to be a lot of stuff that changes, and Marvel Studios is probably thinking a couple years in advance. So I think that they are moving things around a little bit, changing a couple different things. So it's not going to be exactly like that, but I think the spirit is there. I think the character is there, and I'm okay with that.
Oh, I agree completely. And anytime we can get more representation into a studio as big as Marvel and Marvel Studios, and by, definition, Disney, where more people can see themselves in a character, I think at the end of the day, that's the most important thing versus her hands are glowy instead of stretchy. So, and
It,
again, it is just a trailer. I mean, it's very possible. I mean, I feel like that's the biggest problem right now is I feel like, and I try not to watch trailers. You know, I try to watch that. I try to
watched
watch
it
that.
100 times.
I try to watch that first trailer and then I won't watch anything after that because I feel like after that you run the risk of getting spoiled.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's very possible that they're not showing us everything, you know, to avoid possibly spoiling stuff. So either way, I'm excited. But I've got a really important question. That's where's my She-Hulk trailer? Because we have seen nothing for She-Hulk yet. And I thought for sure we were going to see She-Hulk before we saw Ms. Marvel.
I agree. And I think that when I saw the Miss Marvel trailer and I saw how they had built that, I'm like, okay, this gives me a little bit of hope for She-Hulk, but I also think that because the CGI needed for Miss Marvel to do the embiggen type stuff is tough. I think that it could very easily look very cheesy and not look really good. So I think that's why they're like dialing back on it. It immediately made me think of the She-Hulk trailer, and because the actress, in my opinion, is not a big buff lady like I want She-Hulk to be. I think that they are going to have
I can bench press her. I can bench press her, and if I can bench press her, then we have a problem because I should be the one being bench pressed by She-Hulk.
Yeah. And so when I'm like, okay, well, they're probably going to have to add a lot of CGI to this in order to make it right. So I'm excited, but also very worried about a She-Hulk trailer. And if it means that it gets delayed for another year to make the CGI done right, then I will 100% wait for it. I do want to go ahead and mention that you know nothing about Miss Marvel. I really think 100% check out the run by G. Willow Wilson. But then there is another run by, oh shoot, I can't think of her name off the top of my head. But it was
Honestly, Ms.
also
Marvel is just a really good character. I think that's one of the few characters where you could probably pick her up at any point.
Yeah.
And kind of get a good hold and a good focus on her because she is really one of those characters that's supposed to appeal to a younger audience, to an all ages audience, to a wider ranged audience. And I think she's supposed to be very friendly for casual readers.
100%. And it's, for me, it's a good palate cleanser when I'm just like, I want something simple to read. It's definitely going to be like school-aged kids. So a big part of what she's going through is like, how do I balance being a superhero while also balancing my commitment to my family, to my peers, and even in Miss Marvel's case, like how does she balance that commitment to like her faith in her religion and those responsibilities. So even though religion is not anything, I'm not a very religious person. In fact, a little bit of the opposite, a lot of the opposite. I still really enjoyed those aspects, that conflict of the characters. So No Normal is the first trade of the like kind of current Wilson. I would personally recommend starting there, but you're right. I think anywhere you see Miss Marvel, pick it up. You'll love it.
Pick it up 100%. But since we're on, I'm sorry, did you have something to add?
Oh, there's something that happened earlier, and this song has been stuck in my head. Applesauce.
Yeah. Applesauce. I don't even want to know because then it'll get stuck in my head.
When you know, you know.
So since we're on the topic of trailers, a trailer popped up that I'm very, very excited for and feels like it came literally out of the blue. And that is the first trailer for Heartstopper. Listen, y'all, I've talked about Heartstopper on this channel a couple times. I feel like it is just a very fun queer slice of life story between two boys. It is very, very fucking representative. One of the main characters is bisexual, and apparently we're getting a Netflix show. And when I tell you that the show is 1-to-1 with the comic, like I was laying in bed on my phone watching the trailer, like crying because for some reason, this cutesy little queer romance novel always makes me cry. I'm so ridiculously excited for Heartstopper, which is coming on Netflix next month.
Okay.
I'm so excited for it, y'all. You have no idea. It's all I'm going to want to do with my life.
I had no clue until literally maybe about 30 minutes ago, whenever you're like, oh, a trailer dropped for Heartstopper. And I'm like, What? I had no clue. But I'm really excited for that. I'm surprised it's on Netflix. Um, I know there's been a little bit of talk because Netflix is now raising its prices to $19.99 a month. And I was literally just talking with my partner about like, okay, is Netflix going to be the next one on the chopping block? But then I remembered that my favorite show, I Think You Should Leave, which is a sketch comedy show, is on there. And if I can't watch that show at least once a week,
So what's the point?
then what's the point? What's the point of life? So I may have to keep my Netflix subscription just for I Think You Should Leave, as well as Heartstoppers. And I'm just going to go ahead and highlight this comment.
That's how I feel all the time.
Heartstoppers. Exactly.
That's how I feel. That's how I feel about Heartstopper. It's a really, really good book. If you're not reading it, what are you doing with your life?
What's the next piece of news here?
In other news, we talked about this a couple weeks ago about the Justice League and Avengers crossover reprint, all in favor of George Perez. It released this week, and some shops are doing a good thing, and some shops are doing a bad thing. So, because this is, and we covered it a little bit a couple weeks ago when we first talked about it, because this is such a limited print run of, I think it's like 2,000 or 5,000 copies.
I thought it was something like, I thought it was 3,000.
Maybe
I could be wrong.
I don't know. It's somewhere in that range. Either way, it's a stupid limited number. It's a stupid limited number that makes no sense. And why not just print 1 million copies? But because there are so few copies out there, shops are being allocated where they might be getting 1 or 2 copies if they're lucky. And this is causing shops to either put them on eBay and sell them to the highest bidder, or in some instances, like you had mentioned, your shop is doing it, Books with Pictures. They are doing raffles, or they are bidding with all proceeds then going to the Heroes Initiative, which I recently found out was created by George Perez.
By George Perez, yeah. I mean, I think originally, like when it was created, it was like, okay, maybe this creator has like a medical emergency. Let's go ahead and float them like a couple thousand or something like that. But I think in the current climate of creatorship, I think that it's become like we need creators to be able to have a more sustainable like life doing creating, and not a lot of them are able to do that. But anyways, yeah, I have seen where I haven't seen shops necessarily do this, but I've seen people pre-order multiple books from multiple shops and basically hoard them and say, okay, I'm going to sell them on eBay. And then they end up being sold on eBay for way, way more. My shop, I feel, if Josue is in the chat, Josue knows, because Josue actually, they pre-ordered it. But then the shop only got 3 in. So they're like, hey, we're going to go ahead and just, anyone who pre-ordered, I'm incredibly sorry. We're just going to go ahead and raffle all of them off. So if you didn't get a chance to get this, I would highly recommend my shop, Books with Pictures, is doing a raffle, $5 a piece, till the end of the month, or maybe till the end of next week, and we'll be raffling it off. So I know I'm going to go ahead and get a couple tickets and see if I can get it.
There was one copy that I saw on Twitter that came from a guy who flips comics. You know, he buys them off from other shops at a substantial price and then sells them off. He did a charity auction, which, you know, I'm all for. Listen, if you're going to sell the book at a ridiculous price and, you know, do all the proceeds to Hero, by all means, get what you can and then give the money to Heroes.
Yeah.
But he did a charity auction where for every like $100 like bidding, because you had to bid for the book, it wasn't a raffle. Okay. For every $100 he threw in other key books to go with the collection. And at the end of it all, it reached $1,100 that went all towards the Heroes Initiative.
Wow.
And to me, that's just insanity that a single trade is going to be worth maybe not $1,100, because obviously the people bidding were probably looking at the other books that were being thrown in as well. But it's just ridiculous to me that a trade that should be available to everybody is worth $1,100. Also, I apologize. I'm currently watching a monster who is trying to knock over the ring light. Sir,
yep.
I'm speaking to you. Oh, look, he's going for Hoxpox. Interesting. No, he is. I'm not even lying. I have Hoxpox sitting on the shelf over there
So what
because
you're saying
so you
is your
think it's okay to go under the ring light. Okay.
so
That
what you're
was
saying is
terrifying.
your cat is probably going to read it before you are.
More than likely, the cat is definitely going to read Hoxpox before I do.
Yeah.
Anywho, back to news
Yeah.
because we have three other things to talk about before we jump into comics. Vault Comics, who we love dearly, has published
Ah,
books that we love, like Witch Blood and The Autumnal
Heathen.
and Heathen and other just wonderful. We love Vault Comics. Vault Comics secured major funding from Metallica.
I saw Metallica. Metallica was the only one that I was like, oh, I understand that a lot of like bands are trying to get into like the comic book game and have for quite a while, like doing their own books, but it's like weird to see that Metallica is like giving funding to Vault Comics, but hey, I'm here for it.
I mean, it's exciting because I feel like Volt is getting up there in terms of how big they are.
Yeah.
We always see DC, Marvel, and Image, but I feel like Volt could very well be right on the heels of Image Comics at some point, because of the type of content that they produce. Because it feels like they are producing solid stories and engaging stories. It's just they're a smaller indie publisher and they're still building everything up.
Yeah, which I think is still cool. Um, I would almost expect this from Scout Comics. I'll be completely honest because I feel like Scout, not necessarily that they've made more of a name for themselves, but I feel like they're really good. Like I see a lot more like CGC books from them and variant
Mhm.
covers and maybe even more where they do like adaptations, like news type stuff with Scout Comics. So, but I love Vault. I love both, but I'm glad Vault is finally getting that, especially considering that it feels like Vault has had some issues getting some books out on
Yes,
time or
especially recently.
consistently within the past maybe 6 months. I know that could be logistics, paper shortage, stuff like that. But it just seems like they haven't been consistent. So I'm really hoping that this gets Vault Comics to be more consistent with their publishing because I really like their books a lot.
I do. I do. I agree with you completely on that 100%. And since we're talking about smaller indie publishers, AWA Upshot, who has also published books that we like Not All Robots, they have done
Hotel.
Hotel. They recently did Hit Me, which we were both a little on, but
Mhm.
still kind of enjoy the premise. Um, they hit their 2-year anniversary.
They did. It's really funny because when they started coming out in to me they weren't really on my radar until maybe late 2021, mid 2021. So it feels interesting that they've been very consistent with publishing. Like I know what to expect from them. Like most of their books I know are going to be like 4-issue miniseries, maybe 5.
Mhm.
Their trades have been starting off at $9.99, and they have some pretty good name creators, especially Mark Russell, who did Not All Robots. Like
Yeah.
that's one of my favorite. That was one of my favorite books. So really happy to see them getting the notoriety that they deserve, the
I
recognition that they deserve.
I agree, especially because it feels like I'm late to the game in terms of AWA. I jumped on with Not All Robots thanks to your recommendation, and then started picking up Hotel, which ended up being really really great, and I think I even loved more than Not All Robots. So they're definitely a publisher that I'm now, when I see a new release from them, I'm going to consider it. Versus whereas before it was kind of like, oh okay, it's just another small indie publisher, which sounds bad, because everybody starts off small. I mean, I remember when Volt Comics first started publishing Heathens, and
Mhm.
I was like the only person in the shop that ordered a copy because it had a cover by Jen Bartel, but it was my way of getting in with the publisher. So, um, yeah,
Yeah.
pretty, pretty
That
exciting.
and like I said, it's really for new readers because what Image was doing 10 years ago, I feel like AWA is doing now.
Hmm.
Image books have been a lot less consistent for me. I feel like I'm tired of seeing Scott Snyder, Rick Remender, Mark Millar runoff. And I feel like that's all I'm getting from Image Comics. Like, granted, I
Yeah.
feel like we're getting some good Jeff Lemire books and things like that, but I feel like AWA is doing what Image was doing and why I fell in love with Image, especially with maybe the 9.99 trades that AWA is doing. And to bandwagon fan, there's a book that came out called Out, which is like World War II. What is it, like vampire?
Mm-hmm.
I read the first issue, didn't love it, but I'm like, oh, the trade's $10. Let me just go ahead and grab it. So I'll be picking that up.
And then Super Stick Boy coming in saying AWA started right as the pandemic hit and lost all of its momentum. And I agree. Yeah. So the fact that they are doing as well as they are right now, I feel like maybe it's just the circles that I'm in feeling, oh, hello, I see you. You've returned. Thank you. Sonic is also a fan of AWA. But I just feel like they've gotten pretty consistent and you know what to expect from them. And I feel like that's important when a publisher is starting out and they're finding their voice and finding the type of stories that they're going to publish.
Yeah. Yep. Really looking forward to seeing more. And like, you're right, whenever I see AWA, I'm like, okay, I'm going to pre-order at least the first issue and see where it goes. And I'm lucky enough to have several shops that are really good at ordering AWA. So I know if like I don't pre-order issue 2 or issue 3, I've got shops who've got my back,
which is always important. So I've got one more thing, and then I'm going to let you take it because there was one thing that was not on the list, but my goldfish brain was like, oh, I wanted to talk about that.
Yeah.
So this week, Todd Mcfarland, good old Todd Mcfarland, who at this point is probably BFFs with Mark Millar in terms of smelling his own farts, it feels like. Mr.
Maybe they smell each other's farts. Like, they don't just smell their own, they smell each other's, and they're like,
each other's. It's fine. It's whatever. But Todd Mcfarland, who we all know and not love for being the founder of Image Comics, creating Spawn, doing some really cool things with Spider-Man, I guess. He also does the Todd McFarlane toy line that he has, teamed up with DC Comics and has been producing some really, really great figures. Carrie coming in with the Hush figure, which, yes, I may or may not have pre-ordered immediately upon seeing it. It's fine. I have a problem. It's cool. Hush Army Unite. But Todd McFarlane recently did a video interview talking about toys and the state of toys and the state of his DC comic line that he has partnered with them. That I guess somebody criticized him for not having enough female characters in their toy waves. And Todd McFarlane blatantly was like, female characters don't sell. Nobody wants to buy toys for the female characters, to which I say blasphemy, because have you seen my shelf, Todd?
Yeah.
Have you seen my collection, Todd?
I'm just going to go ahead and, Todd McFarlane, my shelves aren't as nice, but I'm going to go ahead and, if you can see all these figures up here, a girl's got Magic, Riri, Gwenpool, Jubilee, X-23 over here.
All the ladies. Like, it's just ridiculous because when you look at the figures that the Todd McFarlane toy line has produced with DC, all the females that they've done, I feel like, are females that nobody wants. So that's why they're still sitting on the shelf. We're getting, the Batman from Batman Drowned and Heavy Metal, which nobody cares about. We've got 6 different Wonder Woman figures that are all, there's not a single normal Wonder Woman figure. They're all, from Death Metal. And yeah, Wonder Woman, don't get me wrong, Wonder Woman's got some cool designs in Death Metal. It's the only good thing about Death Metal. But when you're making figures of characters that nobody wants or nobody's asking for, of course they're not going to sell. Like, give me a Batwoman figure, give me a Black Canary figure, give me a Huntress figure. Like, these are characters that we want. These are characters that I would buy. Yep. So, I don't know.
I think it's almost like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Because as we've seen over the last, like, forever, couple of decades, the female characters typically end up getting just fridged, right? They end up just being there for maybe like a male character's development as opposed to their own. Yeah. And it's like, do they really have source material for people to love and to find? Like, of course people are going to pick up a Batman figure. There's 1,000 freaking movies and there's 1,000 ongoing
And
titles
Batman
right
has
now.
a cult that follows him around.
So of course, like Batman's just going to have that notoriety. So I think that one, like we're not getting figures and people may not be buying them, that's true, but we don't have the comic books to back it up to get like people into those characters interested and being like, "Oh, I love this character enough to spend 30 $40 on." That's a relatively like affordable figure, if not more. But I would also say I think it's bullshit that you think that people don't buy characters of females because, like, have you seen the what is it, Kotobukiya
Oh,
characters
Kotobukiya?
where it's like literally,
Kotobukiya Bishojos?
yeah, like where they're literally all just like they could just be picking underwear out of their ass and people will like buy it and sniff it. Like,
It's bad, and honestly, the entire statement from Todd is just even worse. Like, I watched the entire clip on YouTube. You can find it somewhere. I'm not even going to bother linking it because it's that bad. But just listening to him talk was like, my guy, you really want to say this in 2022 and act like you're still peddling books with Rob Liefeld in the 90s? Because that's what it sounded like.
I think here's the thing is that probably the last successful figure that he did for his toy line was probably Angela and or Glory were probably like the last ones, and he doesn't have rights to Angela anymore. So
Probably. I don't know. It's just a mess. Todd, you're on my stinky list. Until further confirmation, you smell your own farts. So, that's all I'm going to say.
if Todd McFarland teamed up with DC to do Pride figures, like that, if we got a whole line of DC figures based on the Pride covers, I think that would be really, really cool. I would literally
please
go woke, I will go broke.
My money. Please don't do that. My money.
Yeah.
But we have one last bit of news, which I know you want to talk about.
Yeah.
And I feel like you know a little bit more on it. So I'm going to have you take it away on that one.
Once again, this was one of those things where like I open up Twitter and I'm like, what nightmare timeline am I living in right now? Because I woke up, got on Twitter as one does. I played a game of Wordle and then I'm like, let me get on Twitter. And then I saw that it seemed like people were just what is it called, subtweeting, where you tweet about someone but you don't mention what it is. And I found out what it is, and apparently Ed Piscor of Hip Hop Family Tree, Giant Size, like X or Grand Design, those ones. He has been doing this book called Red Room, which is like a glorified, just like torture book. The artwork always reminds me of like R. Crumb, but even more exploitative.
It's bad.
I feel like if it was done just a little bit differently, I would like it, but I don't like it. Anyways, there's an issue that's coming out, and apparently it has to do with cancel culture and a couple who ends up, I don't know, getting canceled. I don't know, whatever. But Ed Piscor, I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but in Infinite Wisdom, decided to do an homage cover to Mouse, and where these two characters from his book are getting canceled, but they're tied up and there's like a pentagram behind them, and it says trigger warning. And the direction that it sounded like he was taking this in is these characters that are getting canceled in this book because of what they're doing are likened to victims of the Holocaust, which, bad move, my friend. Really bad move.
Well, apparently, because I was looking more into this, because I had just seen the cover, and I was like, I made a, you really want to go there sort of noise?
Yeah.
And apparently, as of today, Fantagraphic Books has announced that they will no longer be publishing the referenced Mouse cover.
Okay. I knew that they decided to like pull it, but it only did so after, like, I think, a little bit of controversy, right? Like, it's not like they're just like, oh man, we, had this in planning for weeks. We decided to spend a lot of time and money on the drawing, and we decided to, spend time and money on publicizing it and talking about it. And we just decided out of the good of our hearts to go ahead and not do this thing.
Part
Wasn't
of
the
me wants
case.
to read this Red Room book because sometimes I see the covers and I'm like, it's both kind of cool. Like, I like the homage covers, but at the same time, I'm like, there's definitely some fucked upness going on in Ed Piscor's head. Um, I'm looking at the covers now and I'm just like, why?
Yeah.
Why?
And
But part of me really wants to know what the hell is going on.
and I know a lot of these decisions on, like, the art that we see is decided way in advance, right? So the cover that we saw now could have been decided on 6 months ago, a year ago. Like, that could have just been the decision that was made, and it's just now coming down the pipeline. Like, it's not like 2 days ago the artwork was made up and then they're posting it. Like, this was, in the pipeline. But I really have to wonder, did they do this because of the controversy with Mouse being banned in a
They
Tennessee
had to
library?
have. They had
Did
to
they do
have.
it before or after? So
It had to have. I don't know. Something about it rubs me the wrong way. Check in next week to see if I went down that rabbit hole and read Red Room because, oh, I am tempted.
you know what? It's not that it was worse than like Cult of Dracula or You Promised Me Darkness, because it's has a much clearer storyline. And there's no, like, the art style definitely is that, like, cartoon, not, I don't want to say cartoon,
Like
but to me
heavy
it's
metal. Like
heavy
heavy metal
metal,
cartoonist.
our crumness, I would
Mhm.
definitely say, like, that type of artwork style to it, more than anything. So you know what you're getting. So it's not like it's pretending that it's like the best artwork
It's
out
not
there.
pretending
And
it's going to be good.
yeah, it is what it is, and it's not trying to pretend that it's anything that it's not. But I just think, do better.
Do better. Do better.
Yeah. So that was pretty much that was a lot that's been on my radar for the last week or
It's a
so.
lot of stuff. We're 43 minutes into it and we're just now getting out of news. Like, that's crazy. I don't know why I'm looking at my invisible watch, but I am. But I think it's
Time for
time. I
comics.
think it's time for comics. I think it's time to talk about what everybody's here for, and that's comics. I feel like last week was huge. And this
Last week,
last week was huge, and you abandoned me to do that huge week all by myself.
listen, I didn't even get any of my I didn't pick up my Marvel stuff from last week until today, or sorry, until this week. So,
Oh my goodness. What if I told you I didn't have any Marvel? Okay, I lie. I have one Marvel book, but it's only because I bought it for the cover. Because I don't know about you, but I am actually obsessed with these Russell Dauterman like
okay, yeah,
legacy costume variants.
I'm
I
gonna
think that
I'm
that's
gonna do
gonna
this.
be.
Can I see?
We're gonna zoom in. I think that this is gonna be like my new thing. Is like I'm just gonna start picking up all of these legacy costume ones because I picked up the Black Widow and the Scarlet Witch,
Scarlet Witch.
obviously for Avengers Forever. I have the She-Hulk one pre-ordered. I think now I just need to go back and track down the Psylocke and the Storm. Because I
Okay.
believe Rogue and Jean Grey, I guess that's what we're supposed to call her, Jean Grey. They were incentives, so boo to incentives. I hate incentives.
I'm just gonna put this up right now
Uh-oh.
because
Is it what I
I
think it is?
pre-ordered this thinking I was going to get it from my shop, but for some reason they didn't get it in. But this was the one that I was most excited about. So I had to get it from a different shop, unfortunately. But it is what it is. But the Venom Ussie cover, that's all I'm calling it, is the Venom Ussie cover. Vussie.
Are you going to be hanging that above the bed?
There's a whole bunch. I've got a whole bunch of naked stuff above my bed. Like, I've got
I
a
feel like
couple.
that would fit in.
Kind of. I've got a whole bunch of Frank Frazettas above my bed, though. So, but this one, I actually have even filthier artwork in my bathroom. So this may end up going in my bathroom.
And there it is. So what are we talking about? Because I have 3 DC books and 2 indie books. I read nothing, y'all. I'm sorry. I failed you. Y'all stayed up late for literally nothing. That's a lie. I have 3 indie books. Okay, I have 3 indie books, 3 DC books, y'all.
I'm just going to go ahead and say this was everything that I bought this last week, including some of the Marvel stuff that I missed from the previous week. But what I read is I read all of like 5 books.
We're
It was a
slacking,
weird.
y'all.
I am slacking. It's me. I'm the drama. I'm the drama here. But there's stuff that I'm excited to read in this. Some stuff I'm not. What did you read?
What did I read? I think you know what? I'm just gonna jump right in. We're gonna jump right into DC Comics. I did the thing, where we played dumb bitch money, and I bought 3 different copies of Catwoman.
I got those 3 covers as well.
I got all 3. So we have the Jeff DeCall main variant. We have that gorgeous Jenny Frisian, the Batman, featuring Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman. And then we have this gorgeous Tula Lote cover. So, Catwoman 41. I think I'm continuing, or maybe I'm realizing I have a love-hate relationship with this book because, once again, I don't want to say we're glorifying it, but we're going more into the fact that a sex worker was killed just for the sake of it, and it's really, really annoying. There's also some instances of homophobia, which is really, really bizarre because there's a character that, is working with the big bad crime syndicate. He's the son of somebody within the big bad crime syndicate, and he's providing inside information. But apparently he is queer, and apparently his dad doesn't like the fact that he's queer and is threatened to kill him unless he kills the boyfriend. And it's a mess. I'm very confused at what Teenie Howard is doing. However, because we got to take the bad with the good. Catwoman 41 brings back the appearance of my wife, Onyx, who has basically been gone from comics since New 52, pre-New 52. So she didn't even exist in the New 52. She didn't even exist in Rebirth. And listen, I love Onyx so much with all of my heart. She is the baddest bitch in Gotham, 100%. I am so mad she has never been part of the Birds of Prey. If you haven't read Under the Red Hood, please read Under the Red Hood because she's in that a lot. She's also in Detective Comics, I think. I don't know. I'll have to do more research. It's been a while. I miss Onyx so much. And what I will give Teenie Howard credit for is she leans full on into the gay in this book. Like, listen, there is some definite sexual tension between Selena Kyle and Onyx in this book that I absolutely love, and it's insane. And listen, Selena herself in the book says that her and Batman are on a break. Hashtag hear me out. I want her to date Onyx while also simultaneously dating the other dude that, I can't think of his name, but I like him. I think he's
it's
neat.
like electric dude. I don't know. It's like, isn't it? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know. I just want them all to boink me alongside them. Onyx, I love Onyx. And yeah, I want her in a Birds of Prey book. This book also features the surprise cameo return of another character, which I think is hilarious because I didn't expect it. And that is the Flamingo, which, if you've read the Batman and Robin run by Grant Morrison, which is literally like the only book I like that they've ever written, they're a big character in this. So the fact that I get not one, like, I literally audibly gasped. I audibly gasped when he showed up. I was so excited. I love the Flamingo. But yeah, if I could get a whole miniseries of Onyx or of just her and Selena flirting or Onyx in the Birds of Prey, I'll take all 3.
I will be very, very honest. I don't know anything.
I don't think so. I don't think Onyx was killed off. I think that was one of the last times she was used because right around when they killed Stephanie Brown and then eventually brought her back because whatever, they were transitioning over into the New 52. and a lot of their legacy characters kind of just fell apart. Really, really stupid. I mean, think about it. It took 3 years for them to bring Renee Montoya back into the comics.
If I had to, like, if I was like, I want to read everything that my new wife is in, where would I go?
Under the Red Hood. That's going to be your best representation of Onyx.
Okay.
It's certainly the biggest representation of her, I think. I know she's in a lot of arcs that pop up in Detective Comics and things in there, but honestly, Red Hood, biggest depiction.
Okay.
I love her.
What other DC books you got?
I mean, y'all know what books we picked up. Like, it's a Tom Taylor week, y'all. It's always a Tom Taylor week. We got Nightwing number 90. I was a little disappointed with this book because I opened it up. I was like, where's Bruno Redondo? There is no Bruno Redondo. Listen, I love Bruno Redondo. I think Bruno Redondo might be one of my favorite new artists on like Big Two books. Mm-hmm. He was previously on the Tom Taylor run of Suicide Squad featuring the Unkillables, and his art was gorgeous there. His art has continued to be gorgeous in Nightwing. And listen, Borges's art is not bad, but you know, when you're given Bruno's art for as many issues as we have, you know, you get a little disappointed. So this is like a fun little issue featuring the Flash, and
it definitely felt.
I'm not a big Flash fan, y'all.
I'm not either. This definitely felt like a Flash book. 100%.
See, I didn't think that. It felt like a fun little Teen Titans team up book.
Okay.
And I kind of enjoyed that. And again, it makes me realize I want Tom Taylor to write a Teen Titans book. Listen, Mr. Taylor, if you're listening, please write a Teen Titans book or Titans book or whatever.
I have one question. In this book, there's a moment with, is it Wally and his wife, Linda? Mm-hmm. And they're in bed. And I just want to say, straight people, are you okay? Because there's a moment where Wally says to Linda, like, Linda, you know that thing where we lie to ourselves about not having phones in our bedroom? We should actually try that. And I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, straight people, you need to go to therapy.
Are you telling me that you don't lay in bed and watch TikToks with your partner until either of you fall asleep?
Like, listen, if you aren't sending your partner, like, literally, my partner will get home and I'll be like, yo, did you get the 20 TikToks I sent you? No, you didn't. Cool. Let's watch them right now. And afterwards, we'll watch the 20 TikToks that you sent me. Like, it's a thing. So I don't know. I'm just like, there's something going on between Wally and his wife.
So there's
there's probably more. There's more.
Jen's out here asking the important questions, and that's, is the straights okay? So if you are a straight and you are okay, let us know in the comments down below. So there's two things about this issue in particular I really like, other than the fact that, you know, it is just like a fun team up issue, and I feel like we got that with the last issue with the little Nightwing Superman Son of Kal-El crossover that we got. And again, Tom Taylor proves time and time again he does really, really great with character interactions. But there's two really cute things about Nightwing 90 in particular that I really like. The first one is this cute little Tom Taylor cameo in the crowd. You know, Mr. Tom Taylor, always here with his little chin strap goatee and his little, what kind of hat is that? Like the little, please sir, I want some more porridge hats.
Like is it a newsboy cap?
Newsboy cap. That's what I'm looking for. I don't know why I'm like, please sir, I want some more cap, but that's what it is. It's late. It's past my bedtime.
Starving orphan hat.
It's past my bedtime. It's fine. But one of the things I really enjoyed about this issue is at one point, Barbara Gordon gets kidnapped because of her association with Dick Grayson. She gets kidnapped. She gets thrown into a van. She's on the phone with Nightwing and Wally West right away. And she's like, guys, I think they fridged me to get to you. Yeah. And for those of you that don't know, the term fridging was coined by Tom Taylor's longtime friendly rival, Gail Simone, when Kyle Rayner's girlfriend was killed and stuck in a literal fridge back in about the mid-2000s. And
I
it
feel like it was
pissed.
earlier than that. I feel like
Maybe
it
it
was
was
in the
earlier than that. It was like late 90s, early 2000s. And Gail Simone, who was so pissed about it, wrote into DC Comics and was like, "How dare you fridge women time and time again?" To which DC responded, "Okay, you think you can write better? Then prove it." And then Gail Simone became the iconic badass woman in comics we all know today. So
yeah.
I just think it's really cool that we not only got to see the term, I guess, like canonized in comics,
Yeah.
but it was done by Barbara Gordon, who a lot of people associate with Gail Simone.
Yeah. Yep. And there was it Nightwing that did it? I believe it was, because it was the Nightwing issue that was like one continuous panel. Does also reference Gail Simone, because Gail Simone, for those of you who don't follow her on Twitter, Gail Simone is like, she is the biggest Twitter troll, 100%. Our Lord and Savior, Gail Simone here, is just absolutely fantastic. So it even brought up a couple of jokes about Gail Simone. Wait, it was the issue where they're like, there's a polar bear, and they
That
named
was in
her
Superman, Son
Gail.
of
That was
Kal-El.
in Superman. But then I think that there was also another mention of something that she's like kind of like famous for posting on Twitter in Nightwing. But yeah, there was the one where they named a polar bear in Superman after Gail, which, you know, she's not a bear. So anyways, I love, love,
I
love
love
that.
this relationship that
Yeah.
Tom Taylor and Gail Simone has, and it makes me wonder, because we see Tom Taylor kind of throw jabs at Gail Simone, always in a friendly way, always in a respectful way, in titles like Nightwing and Superman. Gail Simone really has not written a lot of comics in the most recent, in recent years, because she's been doing a lot of work with Lion Forge behind the scenes. Now, with her going on to Variants with Marvel, I'm hoping that we get some Tom Taylor shade. I think it would be
Uh,
really exciting.
that would be excellent. And can I just say, because I didn't get to be here on the live in the chat watching last week, but I absolutely loved that you brought up variants. And I heard you say something about Jessica Jones in Alias, and I could literally hear Scott crying in the chat when you mentioned that. I could hear him crying.
It's not a good book. I don't know what to tell you. It's not a good book. I mean, you might think it's a good book, but it's not a good book. Read Jessica Jones, The Purple Daughter, and Jessica Jones Blind Spot. That's all you need.
I really liked Alias, but I get it's not for everyone.
Did you read any? I have one other book for DC. Did you read any other books for DC this week?
The
In
only
your
other
4
I,
books that you read?
World's Finest.
Okay, that's exactly what I have. World's Finest. How'd you feel about it?
I really loved it. I felt like it reminded me of the campiness of just like original Action Comics type
It was
flavor,
very,
very
very,
golden
very
age.
Silver Age.
Yeah, yeah.
Very Silver Age, very fun. You got to see all types of characters pop up. Mark Waid. I think Mark Waid coming back, to DC main titles, because he always had a lot of fun on a lot of titles. And if I'm being quite honest, it's a lot of his work that got me into some of the characters that I love now.
Yeah.
Him teaming up with Dan Mora on art is just
And Tamara Bonvillain
phenomenal.
on
It's
whatchamacallit on
so
colors. Perfect.
It's so phenomenal. It's hard to say that a book is perfect, but this book really did feel perfect, especially because it feels like the most recent Batman Superman run we got last year by Joshua Williamson was just really edgy. They threw in the Batman who laughs for no reason. At the end of the day, I feel like Batman Superman stories are supposed to be fun. And this was fun. So you got, Poison Ivy showing up. You had
Yeah.
Metallo. The Doom Patrol showed up. Penguin
Mhm.
showed up. There was Robin showing up. It was just, if you want something just fun and lighthearted and campy, it's honestly the perfect book to pick up. And honestly, it just made me really excited to want to go back and revisit these two.
Yeah.
Because listen, when I first started reading comics, Batman Superman stuff was like my jam. Like that was all I cared about, was reading Batman Superman. So this is the Batman Superman run by Jeff Loeb, who I don't agree with, but I really, really like this run. And I really like Ed McGuinness and Michael Turner when he comes on Arc 2. On Arc 2 is kind of fun. I like the way he draws the Furies. I like the way he draws the Furies and Big Barda, and that's about it.
Turner? Did he give her ribs?
I don't know. There was too much armor. There was too much armor. So it was like the armor was covering. That's why I liked it. It's fine. And they have perfect movie adaptations. So please watch the movie adaptations. And then this Batman Superman run from Greg Pock from the New 52 was one of the few really good New 52 titles we had. So if you have not read this, read it because it's really cool. It's got time travel. It's got existential crisisalism. I don't know. I really like this book. Jay Lee's art is a little weird on it, but I really like this book.
Jay Lee is doing a new book. Sorry, you mentioned, is it Jay Lee who's doing a new book by Image? And I swear to God, this is where my sleep paralysis
Jay Lee
go to die. I need to, give me a second. I need to bring up this really quick because I took a screenshot of it and I don't even know if I sent it to you, but I'm like, this is horrifying.
It's bad. Yeah, everybody's agreeing that this book was really fun, and it was. And honestly, I'm just excited because I feel like, and I know Mark Waid has already tweeted that there's going to be a lot more characters showing up, and I'm just like, let's just have fun. Also, yeah, that's stuff of nightmares.
I'm gonna go ahead and full screen really quick because like, what is this? This is seriously like, I used to think that was good artwork style, and
Me too.
I'm like, oh, it's interesting, but this now is just, it's, I don't even have words, but yeah, I don't know if I want to get this book because it's like, this is horrible.
Well, you are on the Image Comics press list, so you don't have to physically get the book.
That is true. I have such a hard time, like, I don't know. Me too. I know. So anyway, speaking of Jay Lee.
Yeah. Speaking of Jay Lee. But that's everything I had for DC. It was quiet. It's a quiet week. Do you got anything for Marvel? Because I have absolutely nothing for Marvel Comics.
I bought a lot of Marvel. I did not read a lot of Marvel.
Did you read any Marvel?
No.
We didn't read any Marvel?
I skimmed. I did not read Carnage.
But you skimmed it.
I skimmed it and it seemed fun, but I also just
for those of you that were waiting for us to talk about Carnage, tune in next week where maybe we will read it. But like, can I be honest? Who actually gives a fuck about Carnage?
I only give a fuck about Carnage because Romvi is writing it.
Oh shit, is he? And you didn't read it?
I didn't read it.
You have problems.
I know.
Okay.
This was a good week for me. Here's the thing is that this past Wednesday, typically I do try to read all of my books, but I didn't get a chance to. I ended up going to see Douglas Wolk and David F. Walker talk about comics. So that took up the majority of my night.
But it's exciting.
That was a lot of fun. That was really cool to see those two Portland locals talk about comics.
Officially, unofficially, keep coming in saying Wonder Woman was a good 3-part of Trial of the Amazons. Listen, I gave up on Trial of the Amazons. I was going to read it. I gave up.
Yeah.
Let me know if Hippolyta is actually dead, because if she is, I'm going to be upset, because just let queer characters be happy.
Mm-hmm. Well, Nubia is getting her own title after this.
Good for her. She deserves it.
Yeah, so I'm excited. I'm excited for that.
She deserves it.
That was part of some of the solicitations that DC has put forward in the next couple months. So I am excited to see that. I haven't finished. I did buy Wonder Woman as well as Trial of the Amazons. I just haven't had a chance to read it yet. So there may be just a big update next week.
Big update. So we didn't read Marvel. We covered DC. I think all we have left is Indie.
I have 2 indie books that I read.
I have 3.
Okay.
I know I beat you.
I think there's maybe gonna be 1 that's the same and then 2 that are not.
Probably.
I'm gonna pull up the one that I know we both have. Just to get it out of the way. I hate this book. I do not like it. It may be a good book and it may be like interesting and it may be a plot that people like. I do not like it. It's miserable. This book tortures me. Its smug aura mocks me. I love the artwork though.
All right. I'm just gonna, pull up my tweets because I read this book on Wednesday and I'm just all right. Let's settle down, kids. Let's have a talk.
I'm so sorry. I know there's so many people that really, really like this book, and
I don't know how. And I kind of
anyone's yum, but I can't enjoy it, and I'm sorry.
I feel like I'm at a crossroads because, of course, I don't want to insult people that I'm friends with and people that like this book. But I feel like if you like this book, like, I don't want to say you actively hate queer people, but I feel like you kind of hate queer people because this book hates queer people. So I'm going to just say it right now. Rain continues to be one of the worst comic books I have ever read. And I'm talking about, there's books out there like You Promised Me Darkness and Cult of Dracula, which I deem as some of the worst things I've ever read. But those things are the worst things I've ever read because they don't make any sense.
Yeah, the story.
There's not a plot for me to really pick apart. When I sit down and I look at Rain and the 3 issues that we've had as a storyteller, as a journalist, this book makes no sense. And knowing that this book is an adaptation of a prose novel by famous fart smeller Joe Hill, because guess what, pal? You're going in the category yourself. I'm sorry. He's got a goddamn comic book line called Hill House Comics that he's done nothing with. He's a fart smeller. He's going in the category. Him and his dad can smell farts, smell cocaine, whatever it is that they do.
Wow. Well, they can't smell it anymore.
They can do whatever they want. But the problem with Rain is we're 3 issues in and it continues to be a story about burying your gaze. There is absolutely no personality from any of the characters that we've seen so far, other than maybe the small child. Everything about it is strange and shallow, and it just doesn't make any sense. And what makes me mad is it has a really cool concept behind it, because it's this, event that's going on where all of a sudden needles are raining down from the sky and it's throwing the world into this post-apocalyptic state. And I'm like, okay, that's actually really, really cool. This is something I would like to see adapted and see how it kind of works and runs itself out. But then you'll have pages where they're just walking through and they're not worrying about it. However, in issue 2, you made a big deal about how it took her twice as long to get from point A to point B because she was stabbing through her shoes. And then in issue 3, there are points where they're talking about how on the news they heard that this is an act of terrorism from another country. But yet in issue 2, you told me that there's no cell phone service and that power has gone out. So what is the truth, Mr. Hill? What is the truth? For somebody who comes from critically acclaimed storyteller Stephen King, this man is a terrible writer and makes no sense. And honestly, I feel like I can't even put any blame on David Booher because David Booher is just adapting the book. Joe Hills, who's provided these character motivations or lack thereof. He's the one that's provided this cringy ass dialogue that doesn't make any sense. He's the one who decided that by page, I'm sure 4 or 5, because it's only a novella, that we were going to kill a queer character. Not only were we killing a queer character, we were going to kill the person of color who happened to be queer.
One of the things that I was thinking while I was reading this is like, how could they have made it better, done it justice? And I really wish that instead of just maybe adapting that story, because from what this is me admitting, like, I haven't read the actual like novella short story that this is based off of. I wish that they hadn't done an adaptation and that they would have just done a story within this universe. Like maybe we saw different characters where this happens, like, but not this story itself. And I'm not saying that it has to be happy, because I get it, but it's also incredibly traumatic and for no reason. There's no justification. This is not a fun story to read. This is a very like painful and traumatic story to read with no real end point and a lot of, like you said, inconsistencies for sure.
It doesn't make any sense. And I think I said it with issue 2, where yeah, you're right. This covers a very depressing topic. And it almost feels like this book is trying to be the road. But the road had point. The road had flavor to it. It had personality, even though it was a very depressing story. There was motivations from the boy and his father, and motivations even so from the mother. Now, granted, I agree, the mother dying off screen or dying off page in the way that she did, yeah, that's kind of fridging in its own state, because you're fridging the female character for the sake of male motivation. But it ain't it, Chief. And guess what? We got 2 more issues to go, so that's 2 more months of you hearing me complain about Rain, and I'm pretty sure it's only going to get worse from here. I could write an essay criticizing this book.
I can't imagine this book getting like better.
It can't. There's no way.
Like I said, from, I don't know, it's a rough one. It's a rough read for sure. I'm not liking it. And I keep each week or each month, I'm like, okay, this is going to be the month where I just stop picking it up. And she didn't. She keeps picking it up.
I'm going to hate read it until I'm dead.
Yeah. What other, I've got one other indie book. What do you have?
What other indie book do you have? Because I have 2.
The only other one that I read, and I actually really enjoyed this one, and I think a lot of it had to do with the artwork, but I got Slumber by Image Comics. Did you read this one?
I stopped halfway through because I hated it so much.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Man, I feel like a lot of times we agree a lot on things, but when we disagree, we disagree. I liked this one. What made you stop, if you don't mind me asking? What?
I didn't know what was going on. It felt very weird. And I was totally in it from the beginning, because I'm like, okay, serial killer dreams. We're playing the 7 game. It's weird. It's whatever. And then it jumps, and you see this character in a dreamlike state. And at first I'm like, okay, I'm on board with this. I'm like, this is kind of neat. It's kind of psychedelic. It's kind of creepy in its own way. Because I don't know about you, but I get some creepy ass dreams that will literally leave me stunned for the rest of the night, if not for days. And the entire time that I'm reading these like really weird sequences, I'm like, damn, what if we had a horror anthology that was all about dreams? We're getting Silver Coin right now. We got Ha Ha earlier with clowns. We've got an Ice Cream Man, which is kind of like on that ball, but not quite. But I'm like, what if we got an anthology series that literally is just on people's biggest fears, the most common nightmares that people can see? And I'm like, what if we did that? And I think once I put that idea in my head, I got lost even further with this book, and I couldn't find my way out of it. So I just gave up on it.
Okay, I can definitely see that. I went into this just really getting the vibes of that one episode of Rick and Morty, where they do the Inception, like dream killer thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the artwork reminded me so much of Scotty Young. A little bit. I went into it with very, very low expectations and just a fun ride, and it did it for me. So yeah, I liked it. I'm definitely going to be buying the next issue of this.
I'm out. I went out. Good thing I'm on that Image Comics press list, so I don't have to physically pay money for these books like Rain. No, I wasn't a fan of it.
Okay. I liked it. Well, you've got one more book then. What's your last book?
My last book is the finale of Cloaked. So Cloaked is a 4-issue miniseries that was being published by Dark Horse. I've been advocating this book since its debut. I've been talking about how it's like this smart, satirical take on Batman and mostly Batman mythos, and kind of, taking characters like the Joker and Batman and Robin and a Lois Lane, Barbara Gordon hybrid mix, and kind of twisting it on its heads and doing like this Black Hammer sort of satirical thing. And I've been really enjoying it. Well, we got the final issue, and it was not good. The nail was completely missed. I am very disappointed. I mean, I'm going to be honest, the way that this book plays out, because this whole story is this detective who's given this case by this old, wealthy, rich white man to be like, hey, I need you to figure out who the Batman is. We're just going to call him Batman because it's murder Batman in this book. Hey, track this person down. Nobody's ever been able to figure out who he is. And you know damn well right out the gate that rich white man is the Batman, and he wants you to just figure out stuff. And I'm like, okay, cool. But it wasn't, it's not the destination. It's the journey. And I'm like, okay, I'm enjoying this journey. I like the conversations we're having about these characters that we're so familiar with. Once you get to issue 4, you kind of lose everything, because issue 1 really focused on, this world's Robin. Issue 2 focused on that Lois Lane Batgirl character. Issue 3 focused on the quote unquote Joker character. Issue 4 didn't give us anything to focus on. And I feel like there it lost its stride. I feel like it might have been trying to do its own Jim Gordon, but it didn't focus on that. And then when we finally get that reveal of ha ha ha, it's me, I'm the Batman, and we already know that it's the Batman, we need some sort of payoff.
Do you feel like because it was a 4-issue miniseries, that because it did have to end abruptly like that, do you feel like that's why it suffered a little bit?
I don't think so, because I think issue 4, I think it could have been ended in 4 issues. I think that issue 4 just completely missed the mark in what it was trying to do. Because like I said, it kind of gave us that Jim Gordon thing for about the first 5 or 6 pages. And then, we get no conflict resolution because you've wasted 5 or 6 pages on building up this character that didn't contribute to your plot. And it just made me really upset, because I've been championing this book and I've been telling people to read this book, and I was really, really enjoying it. And it's the fact that it just missed the mark at the ending, because it very much is that Alfred Hitchcock, the bomb is under your seat. You know it's going to go off, but it's a matter of how and when. And that was why I was really riding on with this story, and it didn't do it at all.
That's really unfortunate. And I know I ended up picking up the first 3 issues, haven't read them yet. And then I was going to pick up the 4th and just read them all together. I didn't see it at any of the shops that I went to. And so I'm still probably going to end up trying to read the first 3 and then pick up the trade when it comes out. But, you keep mentioning that this series is Cloaked by Dark Horse Comics, is very similar to Black Hammer, which is also published by Dark Horse. Do you feel like Cloaked could do that like Black Hammer universe? Because Black Hammer definitely is for those of you who don't know, like it's a whole ass universe at this point.
I don't think so, because we really only ever focus on this town. We only ever focus on this vigilante, and it is all, all the characters we've seen are a play off of Batman. It's us picking apart the Batman character, if you will, without blatantly calling it Batman. And that's what I appreciated behind it, because they were talking about this character that's here to help people, but sometimes he hurts people more than he actually helps them. And it was that whole third layer discussion that I really, really liked, while trying to add its own spin on stuff. Whereas Black Hammer is just, we're going to create our own universe, our own mythos, with the foundation of these characters that we know and love, and then build from there.
Got it. Well, that kind of stinks, because I know, like you said, you have been championing Cloaked as a series. I want to give it a chance and see if
I would still recommend the first 3 to anybody, especially for somebody, we critique Batman a lot.
Yeah.
We talk about how, there's a lot of smelly things going on with that dude. And I feel like from that perspective, it's very good.
Okay.
It's just that finale I wanted more. I was rooting for you.
I was rooting for you. Oh, well, that's unfortunate. But maybe we'll get maybe in a year or two. I feel like Dark Horse does that a lot, where they'll come out with like a limited series, and then like a year or two later, there'll be another mini series in that universe. So maybe we'll see that eventually.
Maybe.
Okay. Well, that's all the books that I have. Anything else you want to talk about or bring up?
Well, I did get another Kickstarter because I back like 2 books a year, and I just happen to back books back to back. And I mean, I don't actually only do 2 books a year. It just seems like I do 2 a year. But I recently got in my copy of Eat My Flesh, Drink My Blood, which is supposed to be a horror romance novel where a man and his fiance visit his estranged parents and things go awry. And I don't know, man, I was just kind of into it. There's some weird peen action going on in this book, and I'm some like ritual sacrifice stuff going on, and I'm really here for it. I really like creepy cult-like stuff like this. I've literally been waiting for this book for a couple weeks now due to forwarding issues and all that good jazz. The one thing I will say, and I normally don't talk about this, but I'm kind of annoyed, is, it's Kickstarter. I paid money for it to be Kickstarted, and then I paid money for it to be shipped. I talked last week how I got The Gardener, which is a really nice little, I don't know where he is, but he's a really nice little thick boy, nice hardbound book. When I got that book, it was in a box, and it was wrapped up, and it was protected. This, which is a floppy magazine-esque style book, was just kind of thrown into an envelope, which then got smushed in my mailbox. So now I have this really dingy corner that's, really nasty and bent up. Yeah. And I don't know, man. I just wish that it was packaged a little bit better. So, Dauntless, next Kickstarter you do, please, either like cardboard in between them. It was bagged and board, but like wrap some cardboard around your bad boys, put them in a box. Yeah. I don't know. I was really annoyed with that.
That really stinks. And I know, like, when it's one thing, like if it's a big publisher doing it and like sending to shops, but it's another thing whenever it's like someone just maybe in their living room doing all of that, and the profit margins are already slim enough, like you're already putting a ton of sweat, blood, and tears. But that is maybe one of the downsides of I love Kickstarter, and I love Kickstartering books. But I think that is one of the downsides to it, is that it's inconsistent. One, you never know what you're going to get from the actual quality of the books that you're getting. Like if you're going to end up spending $20-$30 and get a 200-page hardcover book, or if you're going to spend $20-$30 and get basically one single issue that's like thrown, like you said, to your point, thrown in an envelope. But
I'm excited to read it, though. It looks good. So even if it's got a little dinged up dingy corner, I'm pretty excited to jump into this, because listen, as soon as they were like, oh, it's a horror romance book, I'm like, y'all got me. Done. Y'all got me in a box. And then reading
romance, weird peen action.
Reading weird peen action. That I just need a pull quote, because there's a really fun pull quote on here from Jared Lujan, who we love from Dryfoot and the Twin Blades.
I wasn't here to talk about it last week, but recently got accepted to DC's Milestone. So there was a whole bunch of creators who got accepted into this like DC Milestone program, and Jared Lujan was one of them.
That's exciting. I'm very excited for him, because I think he's a phenomenal creator, and I think he's got huge footsteps to fill or take or whatever. He's got Bigfoot, so I don't know where I was going with that metaphor, but I think he's going to do really great things with comics.
Yeah,
But
he's got some big shoes to fill, but I think he's wearing the right size socks. I don't know if that's like
I don't know. That sounds legit to me, but yeah, I just feel like I should have a pull quote on here that just says weird peen action. So if you're gonna do a part 2, Electric Boogaloo, weird peen action at that comic girl. Listen, y'all, I just want a pull quote. Like, that's all I want out of my life is a pull quote.
Same.
I think it'd be funny.
The trade this week or last week came out for The Worst Dudes, and I'm like, I really wish that I could get a pull quote on there that says "This book fucks," because that's like, I don't know.
That was your quote the whole way.
My quote the whole way was just "This book fucks," and I love it. So Worst Dudes, but
Worst Dudes.
Yeah.
Weird peen action.
Peen action. Well, that's pretty much everything that I have for this week. It was a heavy week for me, but I didn't read a lot. So next
week's gonna be stacked. I already started making the list of next week, and
what's on your list for next week?
We've got Saga 57, Human Target number 6,
Did
Devil's Reign
come back out.
I don't know. I'd have to check.
I keep seeing. Yeah, sorry. What else
we have? Demon Days Blood Feud. That's going to end the Peach Momoko saga. We got Rogues number 1 from DC Black Label, Trials of the Amazon's Wonder Girl, which, listen, I'm not a fan of Trials of the Amazon, but it's got my girl Yara Flor, so y'all know I'm going to read it. We have Demons number 1, which is a Scott Snyder, Greg Capullo webcomic, Comixology only, but now it's being published to print. So pretty sure I'm going to hate that book, but I'm going to read it anyway.
Yeah. Catch us next week where we trash talk everything.
Listen, I don't know. Saga's going to take up the bulk of our time. I just know. And listen, after last month's Saga, Mr. Vaughn, because we're no longer on a Brian basis. We're now on a Mr. Vaughn basis. Mr. Vaughn, you got some shit to explain, because that was not it.
That was like, I'm hoping, I still have hope. Through all of the last 2.5 years of waiting for Saga, and then the last 2 months of books with Saga, I'm still hopeful, even though I haven't been very happy with it, but I'm still hopeful that I get some type of resolution.
I think I'm literally at that point where I'm just accepting the fact that I like those first 3 trades, and then once you get out of those first 3 trades, I don't enjoy it as much. I don't know.
I love it.
But yeah. I mean, we could definitely talk about Snyder smelling his own farts, because he might be in that club. As nice of a guy Scott Snyder is, he also has, what was it, a $400 Substack tier?
Ew.
So he might be in it.
Can I, we didn't get a chance to talk about this with news, but I got the Image Press thing. And it looks like, was it Chip Zdarsky, or who was it? There was a creator
Chip Zdarsky it's his Substack.
It seems like there were 2. There was Chip Zdarsky and one other person, where we're finally seeing things that were basically funded, because that's what it feels like. It's almost like a delayed Kickstarter, where it's like it's funded by the people who do their Substacks. They're finally coming to Image, being published by Image, but it's in a couple months, I think. I think in June or July we're getting it.
It's
whatever it is.
I mean, at this point, it's like, am I going to read it? Probably. But I just think it's funny because we're seeing it with, we just said with the I Have Demons with Greg Capullo and Scott Snyder. That was this, Comixology exclusive, digital only. We also saw it with another Scott Snyder one that he did. I think it was Snow Angels that he did with Jock. Mm-hmm. And that's being published to print.
I thought that was Jeff Lemire.
Maybe it's Jeff Lemire. I don't know. Either way, we're seeing all of these supposed Comixology digital exclusive only comics that are around for a year or 2, and then they get pushed to print. And it's like, you know what?
I think Dark Horse has been doing that a lot, where they do those Comixology originals. Because was it Drift? I forget. There was another one that,
It's too much.
Yeah. I kind of like it because it's really hard for me to read digital and
I agree.
With it. I'll do it if it's like, okay, well, maybe I've got a couple minutes, like I'm waiting for a doctor's appointment or something like that. Sure, I'll go ahead and log into Marvel Unlimited and I'll start reading like some weird back issues. And it's how I've been trying to read a lot of X-Men. But it's just like the weekly, monthly comic books that I get, I have a hard time reading them on digital.
Yeah. Anytime I get a print book is better than digital.
Yeah, 100%. Well, thank you everyone for being here for our late night live show. I really appreciate everyone stopping in. I was kind of worried. I'm like, it's late. We normally do the Monday or we do the Sunday morning. So thank you everyone for being here. I really appreciate each and every one of you.
And before we go, because I forgot, we have a big week this week. So tomorrow we are over on John's Comics with Kids over on his category or comic-gories.
Mm-hmm.
Me and you are teaming up.
We are.
It is a duos Olympic face-off. Our pal Bearded Comic Bro is going to be there. Justin's going to be there with No Good Comics. Chai Comic Girl is going to be there. Brandon with Comic Kings is going to be there. It's going to be a huge...
It's going to be like an all-star night.
It's going to be an all-star night, y'all. And listen, yeah. I'm nervous. I had planned for the filing cabinet to be here and operating and ready to go by tomorrow. The filing cabinet is still in the basement at my old house. Nobody I know is willing to suffer through 4 stories, which I don't blame them. So I'm in the process now of trying to figure out how I'm going to dig through 11 boxes of comics that are kind of unorganized. But then also too, on Tuesday, you and I are going to be on JP's channel, JP's Budget Collecting, discussing your favorite book.
The Many Deaths of Layla Starr, which is my favorite book last year. Mm-hmm. So I can't wait to talk more about that because
very exciting.
If you haven't read it. So tomorrow night, John's Comics with Kids. Tuesday night, JP.
So you get 3 nights of the Casually Comics crew.
And then this Friday, hopefully I don't skip another week, but I'll be on Will DeBeast comic new YouTube channel. So we'll be doing our Friday night gig.
And then back again next Sunday for another episode of Casually Comics.
Yeah. Well, everyone, thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a lovely Sunday, and we'll see you tomorrow because everyone's going to be on John's Comics.
Yeah, everybody's going to be there. You're going to be
voting for us. Voting for us.
Hear me out. Hear me out. You do it. I might finally read Hoxpox.
You said that last time.
I know I did. I'm just going to keep using it. Like, listen, it's the greatest leverage I have right now. Okay? It'll happen eventually, y'all.
Eventually. Well, everyone, thank you so much. We love you and appreciate you and hope you have a wonderful night. Bye.
Bye.